to official order. This meeting of the Town of Camden Historic Resources Committee. Tad hates that AL that I always add on to it. Thanks everyone for attending. And let's begin with a review of last month's minutes. Thank you very much, Rhonda, for preparing those. I didn't see anything that needed to be changed. Are there any comments about the minutes from last month? Doesn't sound like it. Do we have a motion to approve the meetings? It's got to be one of you two.
Do I vote? I'm not officially a member.
Oh, geez, that's right. Oh my God. All right, I second. All right. Dang, we don't have a quorum. Well, hopefully we're not voting on anything today. So I'll just address that. I know that Danny was planning on being here, but his obligations with the high school students at Habitat overcame him. So he's unable to attend, but he's going to do his whole deconstruction presentation next month in August, which I actually think is better timing. So he will be here for that in August. Chris is on holiday, and Anne is unable to attend today. So in terms of membership, I'm glad Ken is here. Tonight, allegedly, it's been postponed a lot. The select board is going to vote on approval of committee members. I wrote an email to the select board just kind of outlining some recommendations along with some budget issues. So I'm just going to briefly talk through that. So Chris Fassel is not up for a review, so he's automatically renewing. Danny's already been is an active membership through 25. So myself and Rhonda are up for approval tonight. If so, we would continue with a 3-year term to 27. Brian is also up for approval. So he would also be a member through 27, and that would fill our 5 spots. Anne has already been approved. Well, she actually has to be approved too, but through Janice, she has already been reallocated to an alternate slot. That means we have 1 alternate slot available, and then we have our volunteers. And though Pat and Michael are not officially listed, they are, effectively our chief volunteers and gurus. And then we have 2 applicants, Roger and Janet, who I have not yet met Roger. He indicated he might be coming today. And then we met Janet last month. So my recommendation to the select board was to have both of those at first be installed as volunteers, so that we kind of have some kind of promotion process so that we can move somebody from volunteer to alternate to full membership. And I've kind of outlined in the email and in previous emails that it would be my hope that all the committees will kind of work that way, because up to this point, it has operated in the reverse, where the application goes to the select board approves somebody, then kind of informs us that we have a new member, which I don't think makes sense. I think, the synergy of our committee is one of the most important things, and that we need to have a good working relationship with one another. But I think it's really important to have the select board on the outside, making sure things don't get too cozy or incestuous, and that, there's a good diverse representation in every committee. So it was my recommendation to the select board to kind of reverse the committee process. And that's now in the hands of Ken and the rest of the select board. But those were my recommendations to them for us. In addition to that, I gave them a heads up on some budget items. So I had previously gone over this with Audra and submitted a budget months ago. And then in conversation with her last month, she told me, I'm a little bit confused about how the budget process works, to be honest with you. Because I thought the submission of that budget was like, okay, that's your operating budget. But she told me that I needed to go to the select board for approval on each of these items, which I don't quite understand, especially because over the last few years, there's been essentially an allocation of money, and that we had a reserve in our budget of almost $7,000 So I had kind of, when I first started operating as chair, I thought we had this reserve and this money available to us in some kind of discretionary capacity. But it seems like that has changed. I don't know if this is clear to other committees, but I'm still not clear on how the budget process works.
Well, I think they changed their
They have
budgeting
changed it.
process.
They have changed it. I'm still not totally clear on it, though.
Yeah.
So, but I did submit a budget and I assumed, okay, so that must be the new process and that budget's approved or whatever. But nonetheless, what I gave a heads up to the select board, and unfortunately I can't attend the meeting tonight. So I'm hoping that Ken can represent this request for us. And I already have sent this to all the select board members. So just walking through it very quickly, I asked for $150 for membership to the Historic New England. I asked for $100 for membership to Maine Preservation. I asked for $40 for membership to Maine Historical Society. And then I asked for $600 for attendee costs for 4 people to the Historic New England Summit that we've been talking about in November, and then associated travel costs. We can, if that is approved, we can talk about who will be going. My hope is that Ken will join us if he's available and interested, and then 3 of our committee members or volunteers. And then the last item, I just kind of gave a heads up. I know that Danny has continued to work on his deconstruction program, reuse program, and he's going to make his presentation in August about that. And he has had continued conversations with Sarah Badiali, who created the first, sustainable materials program in Portland, Oregon, and she's now consulting with different towns who, we're now seeing dozens of towns adopting these similar programs, and I'd love to see Camden be on the forefront of that. And I think it dovetails very nicely with the historical preservation ordinance. So I see these being kind of developed in tandem. And so I just kind of gave a heads up that we would like the ability to hire her as a consultant as we continue to draft that program. And Danny has assured me that it would be a nominal fee, but we would go back to the select board and ask for those specific dollars when we know them. But that's what I see as foreseeable costs in this year, which is well below operating dollars in previous years. So I hope we're not out of line there. And then I just want to remind everybody that this Sunday at 9:30, we've been invited to the St. Thomas Church celebration. So I'm hoping people will attend that, 100 years, with architectural drawings and photographs. I thought that was super kind for them to reach out to us. So that invitation is standing. A reminder about the summit in November, which, if those dollars are approved, we'll start talking about who's going to go and the logistics of that. And maybe we'll do it even if those dollars aren't approved, if anybody wants to just pay for it out of pocket. And then I have the MRCAC on the agenda here. I know there were 2 meetings that Ken attended that I did not attend. So I'm really interested in what was said at that meeting, and that kind of dovetails perfectly to our select board presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. And thanks for, as I mentioned before we started, thank you for this marvelous summary. I think the select board will find it very helpful. And I think it's a model of how the different committees should proceed as far as recruiting and selecting new members. So thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. And the budget is very modest. 890 is your dollar total there. The unknown is the advisor, Sarah Baldiati.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just leave that unspecified for the time being.
Hopefully in August we'll have, when Danny presents to us, we'll have a specific dollar amount.
St. Thomas, do you know anything about the celebration on Sunday?
I just know there's going to be music and historical items. Maybe Pat knows more.
I saw Elizabeth Moran yesterday, and she wanted to make sure that I knew about it and that the committee knew about it, because they're going to have table with history of the church and all kinds of things. So
Well, at 9:30, I'm just curious because that's when most churches have their Sunday service.
I think it's going to start with a service.
It will be at the beginning of the service, did you say?
I
says
think it's
here-
going to start with a service.
Yeah, here's what the email says. We'll be holding a special service at 9:30 to be followed by a reception. Okay. So I'm going to guess the reception and the celebration will be more like 10:30. Something
Yep.
like that.
This is Roger Akeley. You said you hadn't met.
I thought it was Michael for a second. Hey,
Hi,
Roger.
Roger.
Good to see you.
Anyway, she was very excited about having us come to it and said there's going to be a lot happening. So, and I didn't ask her specifically about the wrap on the building or anything, but I think they're going to maybe talk about that. It sounds like they might be doing some fundraising to save that.
There's an agenda there. Can we hand that to Roger?
Can I just say one thing
Yeah.
about the appointments to the committee?
Yes.
You know, back years ago, I think there were people who wanted to be on the committee, and so they would go to the town office and make their wishes known. But that's totally not happening these days. And it just makes such more logic to have them come to the committee and see what it's about. And then we're the ones who talk to people on the street and drum up the candidates. So I think it makes logical sense that then we are the people who suggest to the select board. But
I
in
agree.
past years, it was different. There were people who did want to be on these boards.
Yeah, and I've spoke to Janice to date, or this may be incorrect, but there's no box for mailings to the committee. So Janice said she was going to set up a box. So there'd be a way for applications to go to the box to get to me and communications, which would be great. And I also started an HRC email address, so things can be forwarded specifically to the committee. But also to that point, thanks for reminding me, several months ago, I had a conversation with Jennifer from the library who came and presented to us in May. And she has expressed interest in joining the committee in this fall. So she is somebody that we have also been talking to.
Jennifer,
Gramada.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know who
So-
you're talking-
Is that the same Jennifer who worked on the house genealogy document?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
So
I don't know.
great. But
Not with
Yeah.
me.
I just want to say that, I was invited to.
oh, you need a mic. Sorry. And greenify your button there.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
I was invited to join the committee, but, I'm happy to be a volunteer to go through the process as you described about, just being a volunteer. It's
You
fine-
already
fine with-
volunteered. You've been coming for
for-
5 months now.
You know,
No. We're super glad to have you.
So the process now is that people go to the town office and get a application form to fill out, and there's a series of boxes, which committee you want, and they check the HRC box. So whatever you do, let's make that fit that plan. If you vet or recommend, they still must go to the town and fill out that application.
Right.
Absolutely. But to date, what has happened is that application has gone straight to the select board. I haven't even known that an application was submitted. So yeah, I would love it if it came to me. I reach out to the person, say, hey, come to the meeting. Here's our meetings, explain what we do. They come to a few meetings, and then I turn the application back over to the select board. But anyway, continuing with your report.
Thanks. I don't have much. I did attend, just unofficially as a citizen, the MRCAC meetings. They are going to ask for an extension of their project. They have way too much to do to finish up the deadline is very fast approaching. The select board, if something is going to appear on the November warrant, the select board starts discussing it not tonight, but at their next meeting. And then by the end of August, it has to be finalized to go to the printer in the first week of September. So the time is very short to do everything that they want to do, and they will ask for an extension. And it has been said that there will be a vote in November on the Montgomery Dam. They will ask to delay that. I don't know what the outcome of that request will be.
Interesting.
What's the extension that they're asking for? Who are they asking?
They're supposed to have a report and a recommendation to the select board, before which they want to have a series of public hearings and then modify their presentations and then be able to present that to the public as well. And here it is, the end of July, and they need it all done by the end of August, and there simply isn't time to do all of that. So they're asking for a 6-month extension. That is until the June.
The reason I'm asking is, isn't there a grant involved?
Yep, that is not resolved. I don't know. The money has run out, the timing has run out. I don't know what the
Yeah.
resolution.
Okay.
And do you have any sense of what exactly it is that town will be voting for in November if they're,
The town, 2 years ago, the select board made a resolution that there would be a straight up and down vote to preserve and maintain Montgomery Dam, and the people would have an opportunity to vote, yes, we want to maintain it, or no, we don't want to maintain it.
but without any design or
Or information about what that means.
Well, that is the
Costs and
MRCAC's job, and they do have, 3 months, before the November time, before the warrant article, that timing is done. But if they need to make public presentations, they still have August, September, and October to do that.
Part of what they're planning are charrettes, one or more charrettes where they're supposed to, or their idea is to present the 3 alternatives that the consultant has given them. One's a status quo, one's a reduced size height dam, and the third one is to remove the dam. And there hasn't been much discussion about the 3, and I think they feel that they haven't gotten enough information up to this point to adequately make a presentation to the public. And so they need time to do that as well. They may try to squeeze it in. I don't know if we know that yet, whether they're going to do it or not, but their risk right now is going to the public with insufficient information to really inform the public.
that makes sense. It seemed like they were behind the 8 ball in terms of having a smooth public input process and
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Anything else to update us on the select board?
No.
Okay. Is there anything on the agenda tonight that you're aware of that would impact us or something we should be aware of or?
There will be a discussion of the bridge. The Montgomery funds have been used to design and construct a footbridge from the public landing over to what is called the Harbor Island, that rock with the trees on it. There will be a discussion of that bridge this evening.
And that's completely independent of the Montgomery Dam project.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, the only link is that the Montgomery family has generously given a large gift to repair and restore and maintain the dam, and part of that money was used for this bridge.
One of the things I'm super curious about is now that Tannery Park in the town has voted to preserve this as a town asset and park, what are going to be the next steps for the select board to go, okay, this is going to be a park. So how do we proceed to design and make the park and allocate the money for it? Like, I'm really curious about if it's just going to kind of sit there or if there's who's in charge of now moving it
Great
forward.
questions.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I have a question about the bridge, Ken, but maybe you can't answer this. If if it doesn't go all the way across to the other side, isn't it kind of like a bridge to nowhere?
That's a great expression.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that will be part of the discussion tonight, I should think, because
Yeah, I'm worried about the amount of traffic on it
I'm
and,
worried, I'm so worried.
and then what do they do when they get out there and turn around and have to come back? But
Seems
anyway,
like
we'll
there's a
see what the
vision of a-
discussion is.
Of a sitting park, where you just go out and be able to view the harbor from a couple of benches or something. But nobody seems to have any plan or any specific idea of what that's going to look like. Maybe somebody has it, but it hasn't been made public.
Having just visited Little Island in Manhattan, that was pretty cool. It's not maybe exactly a parallel, but
And didn't that money some of that money just come from the Save the Dam Committee? No, okay.
It's just-
I was just wondering if they had been consulted about it, but, okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ken, and thank you for facilitating.
Yeah, I'll try to
tonight.
represent you well this evening, but your letter has been very clear and very helpful.
Great, Tom. I got a nice response from Tom. So, all right. So, moving on to ongoing business. As I said, Danny's deconstruction presentation is moved to August. Next on the item is the historic preservation ordinance. So I apologize for just throwing this at you all. By no means am I expecting like a bunch of feedback, but I wanted to at least advance this. So I created a draft document for us to start looking at. And, I don't know if it makes sense to process this now. What I think I'd like to do is have a kind of a subcommittee meeting next week of people who, what's that? I have one. To really kind of go through this. So I just really wanted you guys to be able to digest this. I'm going to email it to you all and then start taking feedback and edits from everybody. But I just wanted to create a starting point. And just so you know what this is, I kind of tried to capture a snapshot of where we have been in the process and what we're doing and our kind of shift in strategy from drafting the ordinance in full, which we already had a draft version of the entire ordinance, but it was clear that it was going to take a lot of revision, a lot of internal politics, and be kind of a cumbersome process. And so kind of modeled after the Tannery Park article, wanted to move this process to getting a town approval for it in concept, kind of a non-binding article that says, yes, we, the town, want you to pursue next steps in creating a historical preservation ordinance. And then we kind of have the blessing of the town and some momentum behind us as we go back and look at our preservation ordinance in full. So I created some proposed article language, very much modeled exactly after the Tannery Park language. And then I kind of laid out what our next steps would be. I have not shared this with anyone. You're the first to see it. Tom from the select board did reach out to me and he was very interested in this. And he wants to meet with me about this. And he said that what he would like is for us to make a presentation to the select board in August about the pros and cons of historical preservation ordinance and about this strategy and putting it on the ballot. And then we would need kind of select board approval and all that, as Ken already laid out, by September to actually have it on the ballot. So things will move very fast if everybody here is on board with this and if the select board is on board with it. The first step was just getting you guys something to look at and getting your reactions. Since Danny's not presenting, I could just read the proposed text here. Again, this is the first you're hearing it, so I don't expect any real edits or revisions right now, just digest it. But it's very similar to the Tannery Park language. It says, are you in favor of the town proceeding with drafting a historic preservation ordinance and accompanying definitions and informational material for voter approval on a 2025 ballot. So the idea is to get the town to say, yes, proceed with drafting this ordinance for us to vote on in 2025. And then with the accompanying explanation, this question will approve the Historic Resources Committee's continued development of a historic preservation ordinance that draws on the best practices of comparable towns and the recommendations of the Maine Historic Preservation Commission in an unburdensome measure that will ensure a long-lasting community and unique town character for the businesses and citizens of Camden. So again, first draft, I look forward to everybody's input. And let me just ask everyone, do you guys want to have who would be interested in a subcommittee meeting next week to kind of revise and edit this? Pat, good. Roger?
I could help you with that.
Great. Should we meet in like a week, like next Tuesday?
Yep.
Like an afternoon at the library, in like the good old days?
Is there a word limit to the ballot questions?
No, this has kind of seemed to be the length of
Okay.
almost all of them, so I was kind of trying to conform to that. Obviously, what I present to the select board will be a lot more robust than this. But I can also send, I'll also email along with this document the warrant for June, so you can look at all the different articles and compare. So I'll do that. What time would everyone like to meet next Tuesday? Maybe like end of day, like 3 or 4, something like that?
Anytime.
Anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're meeting at the History Center in the library, check with
Wyatt?
on
Yeah,
schedule.
okay. I'll check with Wyatt and shoot for 3 o'clock next Tuesday.
Okay.
My first thought is you can put the question on the ballot and ask for a vote, but it seems to me that there has to be some information before that you're asking people to vote, but they don't really know what the implications of that are. So I think it's going to have to be some educational process before November.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I laid out in next steps, is that
Oh,
I see us.
I didn't turn the page.
I see us revising this ballot language, then presenting the draft language to the select board, along with justification for the ordinance, and then assume that we're moving towards a ballot, that in September and October, we would be creating informational materials for the public about the ballot itself. So I would see there being one sheets and other kinds of articles in the newspaper and other ways to support this, so that everybody was very clear on what this meant and why they would want it. But on Tuesday, we can talk about strategies or changing this any way you all see fit. All right. Anybody, any other just initial comments on this, or do you want to save it all for Tuesday? Okay, great.
I found some good language in an article that was in the Portland paper
Yeah.
concerning their removal of that historic building in order to increase the size of the Portland Museum of Art. And they talked specifically about the amount of CLG money that Portland has gotten over the years, and it's huge. I mean, I know Portland is bigger than we are, but there's like the whole rationale for why we should have an ordinance so that we could become a CLG was in this article, and I thought
Great.
I'd bring it to the meeting Tuesday.
That I see that and elements of Danny's deconstruction proof as being key components to the presentation to the select board.
CLG.
Certified local government. Which, if a town has that, they have access to a lot more funds from the feds through the state.
It's specifically great for the business community.
Say what?
It's specifically good for the business community in town to
Mhm.
having access to CLG dollars. So so that I see that as a huge component
Mhm.
of our presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the work you've already done. Okay, great. Moving on. Do you have anything to tell us about Curtis Island, or should we wait for Michael to get here?
Yeah, I better if he talks about it, because
Okay. Okay.
but there have been some sizable donations, no keystone ones yet, but
Yeah.
the check this morning for $5,000 from someone we've never heard of.
Wow.
So
That's
that was
great.
nice.
It wasn't me, unfortunately. Okay, so we'll circle back to that when Michael gets here.
Yeah.
Will has still not heard back about the National Natural Landmark. So I think we're going to have to kind of figure out a way to get more information about that. But I still think that's a fantastic idea, but nothing new to report there. So as far as new business, I think it'd be really fantastic if every member had a pet project. And I detailed that in an email last month, but I really wanted to follow up on that. It feels like we've got fingers in a lot of different things, and it would be fantastic if a single member was spearheading kind of each thing. And so I asked you all to kind of think about that. And I wondered if you had, and if anybody had any specific thoughts about that idea or a specific project that they would want to kind of take hold of. And I sent out a list of possible projects or subcommittees, but I really want to kind of hear your thoughts.
Well, I'd like to have more information on just what these various projects, what their goals are, and what the tasks would be involved in that.
Well, I think rather than it being something that I make up, I think the idea is that people follow their interests and take on something that they really want to take on. And I kind of laid out areas that I think would be helpful for the committee, and they can be absolutely interpreted however any person who had a desire to do something. I think something that would be a really fantastic need, first and foremost, is somebody who is into going through library archives, historical society archives, and being, kind of our expert. And we've kind of have de facto historic, experts in Pat, Ken, and you, Rhonda, and others, and Rosalie. But I think it'd be great to have a specific person that we see as our archivist or our kind of go-to historical person. So that's something I would love to have.
I'm really interested in that. I have no idea what's out
Make it
there.
up. You-
Well, I mean, what's out there and what kind of archives are we talking about? And I don't know who to ask. I think Allison was getting a handle on what was at the Rockport Center, and of course, Ken, everything that's in the history library. And how does that work together, and what do we have? And
So I think the questions you're asking
yes.
are exactly what that person would be figuring out. And having those questions, to me,
I have
says
questions, but I don't have answers.
Well, that's the whole point. And I think having those questions points to the need, and
Yeah.
like how you go about getting answers would be illustrative, and also make us go, oh, you know what? This is really hard to know. Therefore, we should do this. So it just really takes somebody who's interested in talking to Ken, talking to Allison, talking to Pat, and figuring out where the
Historic
stumbling blocks are.
Okay.
And I do think the Historical Society with Susan Ryder chairing, they're trying to get their act together. I mean, and I think they're maybe going to get a little more organized out there.
So I guess basically it would start with like an inventory of who has what and where
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and this doesn't work. You know what we should do? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, I think you're a natural because
Okay.
you have the right brain and the right interests, but you have to want it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I have to say, I have the curiosity too.
And you did such a good job with Chestnut walking tour.
Uh,
Anyway, if you are interested in kind of being that person and figuring out what that person is, I would be so happy. But you have to
yeah.
think about it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Brian, did you have anything that kind of struck you as, you know what I'd kind of be interested in doing, or what? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the areas in your list that I'm most interested in are press and social media,
Mm,
and also helping out with research, not doing it, being the lead person in it, but in the areas I'm particularly interested, like history of the arts,
mm,
maritime history, nature, like including the state park,
mm.
but arts including theater, even the celebration at St. Thomas Church. There are these wood carvings made by kind of a legendary family of wood carvers and craftsmen from Bavaria. You know, that's an art connection, the stained glass windows
Mm,
and the Shakespeare Festival here, all those kinds of connections.
mm.
But, you know, it's pretty broad. I'm also interested in things like the tram on Union Street where I live,
Yeah.
things like that. Also, maybe liaison with grassroots community history projects. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Atlantic Black Box, which is a really interesting organization that is made up of, you know, volunteer community historians looking into New England's participation in the slave trade and historical recovery, trying to learn more about that aspect of our history that's been kind of overlooked or suppressed.
Mm.
And, you know, for example, there was a ship built in Camden in 1861 that participated in the slave trade in the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm interested. They do a lot of public programs, Zoom lectures. There's a lecture in Bar Harbor next month about MDI, Mount Desert Island seafarers who were involved in the slave trade.
That's really cool.
So things like that, and other group projects.
Well, maybe not to put words in your guys' mouth, but maybe you've got a collaborator, and maybe the two of you kind of take on this, and maybe Brian is kind of the arts and culture side of the equation, and you're the architecture, people, government, you know,
Yeah.
maybe it's two different arenas, and you guys kind of work together on these questions. And we also said social media, which is like, gosh, we need that. What are you thinking
Yeah,
about that?
I'm definitely. I want to make sure you're not an
You're not
expert in social
14?
media. But I have, you know, and it's been a while, but I did make, you know, simple social media sites for my English language school here in Camden. So I would be able to set up the sites.
Yeah.
And maybe contribute, you know, take photos and let people know about the work you are all doing. All these projects, these great projects like the Chestnut Street Walk, the deconstruction and the Curtis Island and everything else.
I would
Through photography, through social media, and also writing articles and connecting to the press about that. I like to interview. I like to write.
My heart is beating fast.
Yeah.
I would love for us to have an Instagram page. And if you wanted to take that on and contribute photography to that and using that as a gateway to letting people know what we're up to and look at our beautiful town, that'd be fantastic. I'd be so excited by that.
What piqued my interest was when you were talking about untold stories, because I'm sure there are tons of untold stories from Camden, which Ken would know. And over the weekend, I went to Stonington Historical Society to look around, to look at our bell. And they had this magnificent story about Stonington men who won America's Challenge Cup, you know, the worldwide challenge
Yeah.
for 2 years in a row, and they had a whole display, and I thought, I wonder if we have things that we don't know about that are hidden in our history. And it was so fascinating. So anyway, when you said, some of those stories, it piqued my interest.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I hope you guys, really want to take that on, because that would be amazing.
Mm.
In my mind, I'm calling you our social media and arts and culture historian, and I'm calling Rhonda our archivist and historian. I love it. Okay, well, I think that's great. I will be continuing to kind of be the preservation ordinance person. Danny's, obviously deconstruction. And we'll see what, I assume Chris will want to be helping me with the preservation ordinance, but maybe he wants to take on something as well. And we know that Anne has been working on her historic district. So I think we'll just kind of continue to have members take on more kind of authority and autonomy on certain projects. So,
I'd be interested in the resource custodian
yeah.
activity. Well, I got a lot of learning to do, but
How about this, Roger? Would you want to maybe at our next meeting tell us what you think that would be?
Sure.
Awesome. Great.
And the one we didn't talk about was public history outreach.
Yeah. I kind of see that as a little bit of what Brian's talking about, with having an Instagram site and some kind of social presence. That is kind of public outreach. And we can all talk about different things we can do to inform the public and outreach. I'm hoping that Pat continues to write articles in the newspaper as she has.
There's a nice article in the Camden Herald about the Curtis Sound project.
Yeah. So, yeah. Do you have
So
more
that's
thoughts?
kind of the same, the public history outreach and press and social media.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, these are just off the top of my head.
If you need a website to host any of that on, the town could probably give you a page to work with.
Janice has been really amenable to me making edits to our existing page, so we can hopefully continue to expand that. And they just launched the new town website, which I think looks way, way better. So, yeah. And then we don't need to really go into this, but I keep putting it on the agenda because I think at some point we should address it. I think we should have some small set of bylaws and description of officers. And we're calling me the chair, but that's not really an official position, and neither is secretary or anything. But I think it'd be great just to have a very simple set of bylaws as part of the committee to talk about, is there a chair? What is the terms of the chair? What have you?
No, there is nothing like that now.
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything. Yeah. So,
There may have been some general ones. I can look
About
back.
committees and how
Yeah.
committees work.
Yeah.
But so there's nothing really else to say about that for now. I'll open to public comment, but there isn't any public.
I could give a brief.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Oh, look who's there. Hey.
Yeah, sorry. I got in about 10 minutes ago. And I wanted to just put something out there that's relevant to what you were just discussing,
Okay.
which I told you about, Chris, but I don't think anyone else has heard yet. So first off, I'm sorry I can't be there right now. I'm at a Habitat site and I couldn't get out of work today. But the former Bagel Cafe I'm working on that redesign and renovation. It's going to be a cafe that's owned and operated by a local newspaper that is going to be called The Villager. It's going to consolidate some of the other local papers. So it's going to be a community space, sort of celebrating the press and interesting people historically in our community. So I could see maybe using that space to do some sort of archival presentation work at some point. That might be an interesting way to display some of the stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And what Danny and I had spoken about is that maybe that is a little bit of I don't know, a signpost for the Historic Resources Committee, that we have some presence in that space about this is the work of the Historic Resources Committee.
Yep.
And a way for our archivist and historian and our arts and culture person to maybe put some information out to the public there as kind of like an outlet, because the vision of it is that it's a gathering place, a place for people to read and see local information and news. And so if we had some kind of kiosk or presence there, that could be a way for us to reach out to the public about Camden's history and everything we're doing. So it's still in development stage, but I think it's really cool, Danny's work on that and how it might dovetail with what we're doing. And I can't believe I used the word dovetail twice in 1 hour. All right, cool. I don't know how much you caught of the meeting, but I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't jump in earlier. Just the last 10 minutes of I've heard.
Oh, no problem. So we're looking forward to seeing you in August. And
Yes, I will be there, and I will have a presentation ready for you guys.
great. One thing you
I look
may not
forward
have
to it.
heard. One thing you may not have heard, Danny, is that I did
Yep.
submit to the select board for tonight's meeting. Gave them a heads up that we would be approaching them for consulting dollars for Sarah.
Oh, great.
So I didn't put a specific dollar amount. I was hoping that out of your August presentation, you might have an idea of what we were looking for, that we can then go back to the select board. But I'm giving them a heads up. So
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and she just recently sent me what her rate is. So
Okay.
I have that already. I can share
Great.
that.
great, awesome. Have fun.
Thank you.
All right,
See you guys.
all right. Do you think Michael might be here soon?
I don't know. I can just give you a brief update
Okay.
that on the 31st of this month, Annabelle Trenner, and I can't remember her hyphenated last name,
Mhm.
but she's the chief architect for Historic Building Architects who did the assessment on Curtis Island. She's going to be in town on the 31st and meet with the foundation board and give them the final report. And on August 1st, she has agreed to having a presentation meeting for whomever the foundation wanted to invite. And they are going to invite the Historic Resources Committee and individually, if select board members, to come just to hear what the cost estimates came in, what the plan is, and just to make a public statement, but not to make it, they don't want it like in the newspapers yet, printed in newspapers, because it's pretty detailed. They want to digest it and decide to what degree all of this is going to happen, and are they going to do it for the billions of dollars that it'll cost to do it, or are they going to do what version, how many phases, they want to get their thoughts together before they make it out to the general public, but they would like interested parties to come and hear what Annabelle and her group have found.
Are you going to send an invitation?
Yep.
to? Okay.
There's an invitation right now that's drafted but hasn't gone out.
Great.
So that's August 1st, and I
Is
don't
that going
know
to be
where.
at the lighthouse or is she like
I don't
here?
know.
Okay.
No, it won't be at the lighthouse.
Okay.
It'll
That'd
probably
be
be
fun
here.
though.
So their work is continuing. They are getting some contributions. They made a small mailing of maybe 200 to, I don't know where that list came from for donations, and response was good. They do need to have like major donors come forward, but they haven't done the asking yet for that
Is this group called the Curtis Island Foundation?
foundation.
Okay.
Curtis Island Foundation, yep. And they're working with the town, and the town right now is occupied with dozens of other things, but, you know, a little concerned that there aren't signs on the island right now for the trails or the hours or,
Mm.
but it's slow to happen. The foundation people will keep after the town, you know, when's this going to happen? And
Yeah,
could we have this and that? So,
that's great.
yeah, so it's moving forward, but August 1st will be a good meeting to attend if you're interested.
Great. And just a little disconnected thought, but as I was saying before the meeting started, I'm going to be gone in September. I'll definitely join by Zoom, but maybe, Rhonda, you want to facilitate that meeting?
I can do that.
Great.
Oh,
And then,
Depending on the date, but I'll check.
okay. And then I know that you, Ken, and you, Rhonda, were at the event on Sunday at the
St. Thomas.
Observatory.
Oh,
What is the name of it?
Oh, the
The
music
new
place.
music, yeah, the new music. place.
Bay Chamber
Bay
concert.
Chamber,
Yeah.
right.
So that was kind of cool, like,
Yeah.
and amazing, the fundraising they did there.
mhm.
I heard 8 to 9 million that they raised or something. The facility looks really, really nice, and that's
Yeah.
going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Except Anne was pointing out they put a grand piano next to the window, and she was very concerned about heat
Oh.
changing the.
Oh.
Anyway, but that was really cool. So before we end today, does anybody else have anything else they want to add or talk about? We're all good? All right. We were a little too efficient today. All right. Well, do you have a motion to end the meeting, I guess?
Motion to end.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. As you guys are great for working on this and being here over the summer months, and really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday.